Before we begin today's video, I'd like to give a shout out to two of our newest subscribers, Brian Golden and Richard Risen. Thank you both for subscribing, and welcome to the family. And now on with today's rather overdue video. Whew. Boy, what a week that was. I do apologies, my dear viewers. I have been rather under the weather for the past week, and I was not able to do any form of recording because of it. And honestly, well, this video in particular was supposed to be part of the part 3 of the Elemental Toa series, but with the elements of gravity and sonics, it was nearly impossible. I mean, just look at the abilities that gravity and sonics have. This needs to be homebrewed way out of my league right now. I've only just been able to figure out how to do Ancestry, so it will take me a while just to figure out how to get these two elements in line with the other elemental types within Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Not to mention that the element of psionics Matoran have a weakness to their own element. So I'd have to figure out how that would work, and let's just say that it's gonna be complicated. But that's off topic. Again, apologies for not being able to have any videos out this past week due to my rather unexpected sickness. I am not used to getting sick. Most of the time, it's just allergies that have me under the weather, not an actual flu. Too much information. Let's go ahead and turn to today's topic, and that is Toa Takanuva, the Toa of Light, the legendary 7th Toa. Now, some of you are probably wondering, much like I was when the set's first release, why Takanuva went from this brilliant white and gold to a dull white and silver. And there are actually two different reasons for this occurrence, as what I found out. The first recorded instance of Takanuva going from gold to silver was actually an encounter with a Shadow Leech, a experimental creature made by the Makuta to drain the elemental light from individuals. This actually caused Takanuva to lose some of his ability of light and gain control over the ability of shadow, making him a Toa of light and dark, which was a very interesting turning point in Takanuva's story, especially when the elemental darkness was actually starting to warp his mind. The second instance of this occurring was actually from his own ancestry, his own heritage. Takua was an of Matoran before he became the Toa of Light. The Light Matoran, as they were called, were naturally gold and white armored, but they have a special ability to bend light around them to change the color of their armor, or at least the way it is perceived. And this is how we see Takanuva in the Stars sets. He uses this ability when he gets onto Bara Magna to hide his flashy gold armor. That way he is able to stealthily walk around the wastelands and not be seen by Makuta's forces, which honestly is a pretty good ability to have, and something we are going to have to explore in this build to see if we can try to replicate, which I believe we can. But with that being said, we need to take a look at how Takanuva might look within Pathfinder 2nd edition. To start things off, we are going to need our stats. I'm going to say that his stats are going to be as follows. Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, and Charisma will be starting off at a 12, with Intelligence and Wisdom staying at a 10 for now. Next, we're going to need our Ancestry and Heritage. If you have been following the Bionicle to Pathfinder 2nd Edition series for a while, you already know the ancestry of the android, which is going to give us an increase to our strength and our dexterity, while giving us a flaw in our charisma. We are going to have 8 hit points, we're going to be of medium size, and a speed of 25 feet, with the languages of Common and Undrothin. We also get access to light vision and the constructed ability, as well as the emotionally unaware feature, as well as an ancestry feat. I think Radiant Circuitry is going to fit rather well here for the Matoran, since the Matoran have said to be able to, well, produce light. And this is actually a ancestry feat that all androids are able to use. I just think it fits more with the Matoran. Speaking of the elemental light, there is only one heritage that would fit with this elemental light, and that is the heritage of the Nephilim. Well, more specifically, the lighter side of it, the celestial half, the previously known as Osama. Moving on to our background, like I stated, Takua was the destined Toa of Light, which was prophesied on the mask he wears, the Mask of Light, which funnily enough is in the same category as the Krata and another mask that was introduced, which are in the same category. Mask of Elemental Power. If a Toa were to wear one of these masks, they would gain full access to that mask's elemental properties. So if a Toa of Fire were to wear a mask of, we'll say, Ice, they would gain the powers of both their element, Fire, and the element the mask provides, the element of Ice. So, for the purposes of Takua, this is more of the Mask of Redundancy, since he is an Matoran who became a Toa of Light but wears a Mask of Light. Anywho, off topic, we need the background of the Chosen One. I was originally going to go for the Amnesiac background, but I thought the Chosen One background would fit a little bit better. This will give us the trained skilled in society, as well as giving us a boost to strength and charisma. We also get the feature Prophecy's Pawn. Next is our class. The only class that I think would fit for Takua, aka Takanuva, is going to be the Sorcerer. This will give us an extra 6 hit points plus our Constitution modifier. And since we have the Sorcerer, we are going to be getting a boost to our Charisma, and giving us proficiency in the Sorcerer spell list. We're going to be trained in Perception, we'll be also trained in the saving throws Fortitude and Reflex, as well as being experts in Will saving throws. For our skills, we are going to be trained in Acrobatics, Athletics, Stealth, as well as Diplomacy and Religion, which we are going to be getting proficiency in from our Bloodline, which we'll talk about here in a second. Next are our attacks. We are trained in simple weapons and unarmed attacks. For our defenses, we are going to be untrained in all armor. However, we will be trained in unarmored defense. We will make sure to fix this later, do not worry. Next is our bloodline, which I picked the only one that would fit with an elemental of light, and that is the angelic bloodline. This will give us access to the granted spells of Heal, Spiritual Weapon, Searing Light, Divine Wrath, Flame Strike, Blade Barrier, Divine Decree, Divine Aura, and Foresight, with our bloodline spells being Angelic Halo, Angelic Wings, and Celestial Brand, with our blood magic being an Angelic Aura protects you or one target, granting a +1 status bonus to saving throws for 1 round. Honestly, a very useful bloodline. Maybe I should make a character of this bloodline. It'd be interesting. Moving on to Sorcerer level 2, we are going to get ourselves a class feat. I'm going to go with Dual Weapon Warrior Dedication. While we probably could be taking this much later, I thought it would be good to take it while we can, since Takanuva does eventually have access to this sort of fighting style during the Stars run. Like I said, we probably could take this later, but I thought it'd be good to take it now. We get access to the, of course, ability to use the Dual Weapon Warrior Dedication with the free feat of the Double Slice action. I also decided to go for the skill feat of Quick Jump. Moving on to Sorcerer level 3, we are now experts in stealth, and we're going to grab the feat of Weapon Proficiency. This will give us access to our much needed martial weapons, much like staves and lances, much like we see with the Titan set of Takanuva, where he has his Power Lance. He also has his 2 Power Lances in the Star series, so it would definitely be useful to have this Weapon Proficiency feat. We also get access to signature spells just for being a 3rd level sorcerer. Moving on to level 4, we get the class feat of Ancestral Blood Magic and the skill feat of Assurance, which we will be using Athletics. Moving on to level 5 Sorcerer, we are going to go ahead and increase our ability scores. Let's go ahead and increase our Strength, Constitution, Intelligence, and Charisma. We are going to be getting an expert skill in Religion. We are now going to be trained in the Arcana skill, and we're going to get an Ancestry feat in Nanite Shroud. This is going to be somewhat similar to Takanuva's ability to be able to displace light to change the color of his armor. Somewhat, not quite. This is sort of an advanced version, a concealment, making him sort of the same color as his surroundings, giving him camouflage. That's the way that it kind of reads here, so it makes sense to go with that route. We also get access to Magical Fortitude. Moving on to our level 6 Sorcerer level, we're going to get the class feat of Advanced Bloodline and the skill feat of Armored Stealth. This way, even if we are wearing some armor, we are not going to be as noisy while wearing it. Speaking of armor, we are going to need to have some armor proficiency, which is where we are going to get our next feat on Sorcerer level 7. We're going to have the expertise in the athletic skill and get the feat of armor proficiency, giving us access to light armor for now. But once we get this feat again later on, we will get proficiency in medium armor, which we are going to be doing, so take note of that. We also have access to expert spellcaster. Going on to level 8 Sorcerer, we are going with the class feat of Cross-Blooded Evolution, and this is because we need access to the spell Illusory Disguise. This is the spell that is going to give us the same ability as the Avnatoran's ability to change the color of their armor. But the Divine spell list, which is the spell list that we currently have thanks to our angelic bloodline, does not have access to this spell, which is why we are going with Cross-Blooded Evolution, which gives us access to any spell that is not on our spell list. Furthermore, we are going with the skill feat of Rapid Mantle, which is definitely going to be useful for some of those trickier terrains. Next is Sorcerer level 9. We are going to have an expert skill in Acrobatics. That way we can finally perfect our special move for that Koli match against Makuta. Next is our Ancestry feat with Android Lore, which is kind of basic. I couldn't really see any other Ancestry feats that would work here, so I just decided to go with it. We also have access to Lightning Reflexes. Moving on to level 10, we are going to go ahead and increase our Dexterity, Constitution, and Charisma each by 2, while our Strength is only going to be increased by 1. For our class feat, we are going with the Greater Bloodline, and for our skill feat, we are grabbing Titan Wrestler. This is going to be very useful for our showdown with Makuta since, well, we are indeed wrestling him when we finally succeed in that Koli match to try to get his mask off. Honestly, not a smart move considering the curse placed on the Kraken, but whatever. It was still a very great scene. Next is level 11 Sorcerer. We're going for the Master skill in Athletics. We're going to grab Armor Proficiency once again so we can have access to medium armor, much like a breastplate. We're also going to get access to Alertness and Simple Weapon Expertise. Going over to level 2 Sorcerer, we're going to get the class feat of Quickened Casting and the skill feat of Assurance once again, but this time for Acrobatics. That way we are for sure going to be able to pull off that Koli trick that we used against Makuta. Moving on to Sorcerer level 3, we get Master skill in Acrobatics and an Ancestry feat. The only one that I think would work well with Takanuva is going to be the Advanced Targeting System, which gives us access to the ability to cast True Strike once per day. We also get access to Defensive Robes and Weapon Specialization. Moving on to level 14 Sorcerer, we are going for the class feat of Dual Weapon Blitz from our Dual Weapon Warrior Dedication and the skill feat of Acrobatics Mastery. Moving on to level 15, we're going to go ahead and increase Strength and Charisma each by 1, while Intelligence and Wisdom are going to each increase by 2. We are going to be experts in Android Lore, as well as being trained in the skill of Nature. We're also going to grab the feat of Ride. This is to reference our... what was it called? An Usa Crab? Whatever. A Puku was its name. The friendly crab that we had ridden for most of our journey when trying to find the so-called prophesied Tower of Light that turned out to be us. We also are now a Master Spellcaster. Moving on to level 16, we are going to grab another Dual Weapon Warrior Dedication feat in 2-Weapon Flurry, and we're also grabbing the skill of Combat Climber. Moving on to level 17, we're going for the legendary skill in Acrobatics and grabbing the Ancestry feat of Divine Declaration. which I felt was the only ancestry feat that would fit here. Everything else seemed to be a little too far in that area. We also get access to Resolve for being a 17th level sorcerer. Moving on to level 18, we are grabbing the class feat of Reach Spell, and we're also grabbing the skill feat of Assurance for Diplomacy this time. Since we are the Tower of Light, we have a little bit more sway with our Diplomacy. Moving on to level 19, we are now an expert in Diplomacy, and we're going to grab the feat of Incredible Initiative. We are also Bloodline Paragons and Legendary Spellcasters at this level. And then finally, moving on to level 20, we're going to go ahead and increase Dexterity, Constitution, and Intelligence each by 2, while increasing our Charisma by 1 point. We are now trained in Survival, and we're going to grab the class feat of Gunslinger Dedication. This is more to reference the Titan Takanuva set, where we gain access to a Skyblaster. For the Gunslinger way, it makes the most sense to go with the way of Drifter, and normally we'd be getting access to a different skill, but since we already have access to it, we are going to instead grabbing the skill Intimidation. During the Titan phase, which was in the Mystica arc, he definitely was a little bit on the intimidating side, especially when he had access to both light and shadow, even though it was temporary. Next is the skill feat of Kip Up, which I think would definitely work for this sort of build. But with that being said, that is all the time I have for you today. How do you like the build? Would you play as Towa Takanuva? Or would you play as your own Towa of Light? Let me know in the comment section below. You don't have to follow this build point for point. You could end up playing a different type of Takanuva. Perhaps even one from an alternate universe. But with that being said, that is all the time I have for you today, and I hope to see you next time when I am online.